Recently, we had this theory that the heavily increased traffic to Marathon socials was foreshadowing a larger announcement coming soon, and today, well, that announcement came. Marathon locked in its launch date, which might be surprisingly closer than expected, along with providing a bit more information regarding the additions of the game, the system requirements to see what type of machine can run it, and a few more things. Today I want to keep you in the loop with all this, as I've been following along since the original announcement back now nearly 3 years ago in early 2023, which is kind of crazy to think it's been that long. But let me know your thoughts down below. Drop a like if you guys enjoy the video, and make sure to subscribe for more Marathon, Arc Raiders, and even more FPS content. I'd love to have in the community. But for now, let's get into it. So first and foremost, well, Marathon finally now officially releases on March 5th, 2026 on Steam, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X and S. So pushing the boundaries there to the next generation, or current generation rather, leaving behind Xbox One and PlayStation 4 consoles as well. This was made official by today's pre-order trailer, so yes, pre-orders are indeed live, but if it's any sort of trend, Marathon, as of recording this video, has actually already jumped to the 5th most sold on Steam's top 100, a weekly listing of titles. So a nice sign of interest there for the game. Of course, we don't have any information just yet after only sub 12 hours of time for things like PlayStation and Xbox listings, but March 5th, frankly, I was a little surprised by this launch date for a few reasons, but I assumed that it would have been pushed a little further into the month, maybe like the 19th or something. 2 weeks later, but nope, Bungie and Sony are geared up and ready for the 5th. So one could hope that that signals confidence in the project to end up launching it sooner than probably a lot of people would have expected in that month of March, but we'll see what time does dictate. Now that said, while we're waiting on new gameplay details and some things that you might actually want to know about the game and gameplay itself, we did in the meantime get some information about the additions of the game, because there are going to be 3 different steps of what you can end up purchasing for Marathon if you are interested in grabbing this. Marathon's Standard Edition goes for $39.99, Marathon's Deluxe Edition is $59.99, and then there's a Collector's Edition. 2 steps to this actually, so like a 3A and 3B. If you want the full game, it's the Deluxe Edition plus the price of the collector's items. It's $229.99, or if you don't care about the game and you only want the collector's items, it's $179.99, something that Bungie usually does with all their collector's edition stuff. But the Standard Edition comes along with the main game and also access to all the content updates, maps, render shells, events, and so on and so forth as the year progresses. But if you pre-order that Standard Edition, you also end up getting the 0-step tactical sidearm style, weapon charm and weapon sticker, and the Apogee Intercept background and emblem. And just for good measure, if you are a Bungie fan, you'll also get Destiny 2 items for the UESC Echo Type Shell Exotic Ghost, Rover Exotic Ship, and the Sprinter Exotic Sparrow. So that's your basic entry to the game here. You end up getting just simply a couple of extra things depending on if you end up pre-ordering or not. The Deluxe Edition, though, is where you start to see a couple of extra bonuses on top of that to justify that $20 increase in price. You, of course, get all the Standard Edition content. You get a one-time premium reward pass voucher, 200 silk reward pass tokens, and additional weapon cosmetics of the Midnight Decay pump shotgun style and overrun AR style. You also end up getting the Midnight Decay items for the runner shells of Vandal, Destroyer, Assassin, and Thief. So a couple of extra bonus items there with this, but also granting further reward content with that pass voucher and some in-game currency with these silk rewards. Now the Collector's Edition, again, depending on what you do, whether you want the game or not, if you do want to end up getting the more expensive version, it comes with the Deluxe Edition, but the Collector's Edition items are a 1/6 scale Thief statue with LED lights, a collectible silkworm miniature, iron-on embroidered patch, 6 art postcards, a premium hexagon packaging with lenticular posters, calling back to the packaging of the original Marathon games, and a display box featuring environmental art, plus a couple of extra in-game bonuses of the 0-step emblem and 0-step background. Personally, big fan of Collector's Editions being available here for this. I kind of wish that the industry would go back towards a lot more collectible editions to begin with. I feel like a lot of games have kind of strayed away from that. They're moving digital only for the entire package. I just love Collector's Edition things. I think it's cool. This one's a bit pricey and a jump up from that Standard and the Deluxe Edition, but I love the option that it's there for those that are really diehard about it, and it does offer some cool stuff. Now, as for the pricing models, like taking the Collector's Edition out of the equation here with this, the $40 to $60 price tag associated with the Standard and Deluxe Edition, honestly, as I said with Arc, I think this is kind of the sweet spot here with this. Low enough barrier of entry that it's not something that feels like, I'm spending an arm and a leg here to play a game that I might not like. And frankly, when you look at the launch content that the game will have, this, along with something like Arc, is meant to be a long-term game. So that initial launch offering isn't as big as some other games that may be $70 or $80 that you see launching every single year, but will continue to grow over time here at this. So $40, I think, is a nice sort of barrier of entry that allows people to check this out without really breaking the bank. But also, the more important part is that in theory, it should keep repeat offenders out that may be cheating. Because listen, yeah, the game will absolutely grow exponentially if the game is free to play, but at the same time, there is no real barrier if your anti-cheat isn't working as intended. So that means that somebody can just create a new account, spoof some hardware, and jump back into ruining people's experiences. However, if there's a $40 price tag associated with it, I would say probably 99.9% of trolls aren't willing to spend that kind of money if they're getting consistently banned. Or in theory. Maybe I have too much faith in humanity. I don't know. But anyways, that is the pricing, the additions to the game, and what you can end up getting. They did also detail, thanks to the listing now officially on Steam, the system requirements for the game. The bare minimum you'll need to run this is Windows 10, an Intel i5 6600 or AMD Ryzen 5 2600, 8 gigs of RAM, and a GPU of the GTX 1050 Ti, Radeon RX 5500 XT, or the ARC A580. Just as like a quick baseline, if you have a GPU from 2016 or newer, a processor from late 2015 or newer, and a relatively low ceiling for memory, you should be able to run this game. Like, this is a very low intensive game when it comes to some of the optimization, it seems like, for what you need to at least run it. Now again, the quality of which and what that will look like is entirely dependent, but you can boot it up. Your recommended, though, is a Windows 10 or 11, an Intel i5 10400, and Ryzen 5 3500 with 16 gigs of RAM, and a GTX 2060 GPU, or a Radeon RX 5700 XT, or Intel Arc A770. So again, for a sort of baseline here at this, the recommended it wants for this is anything from like a GPU of 2019 or newer, and a processor from early 2020 and newer with the probably average level of memory allocation. If you're playing on PC, you're probably going to see a lot more stuff pushing towards 16 to 32 gigs of RAM there. But anyways, kind of impressive here with those minimum to recommended. I'm very much so looking forward to seeing what this caps out at as sort of like the ultra extreme graphics and what we have with that. But anyways, the final thing that we can talk about here is in relation to another open test at some point. This has been openly mentioned as a detail for a while, but it was explicitly mentioned in this blog post going over all the details about the additions of the game and everything that will share more information about the open preview weekend at a later date. So first and foremost, the open preview is something that anybody can check out. Like, you'll literally just be able to download the game and check it out for that weekend. You don't need any code or anything. You can just check it out to whatever degree you want. But when that is, it's a great question, because when we look at the calendar, we're only like, what, 6-ish weeks away from launch, being that it's on the 5th. So that, in theory, should be coming up rather soon. I'm expecting this, of course, to be more of a demo than anything else. Like, it's not going to be one of those situations where it's a beta. They're fishing for feedback, and their main goal is to try and take that feedback and implement it for launch. So this, in theory, because it's not that, could be much closer to the launch. Like, it could be the weekend before the game's launch, it could be the weekend 2 weeks out from launch, or it could be this upcoming weekend. I'm going to say that it's probably not that one, just because we would have heard about that probably in a better wording, as opposed to we'll just share more information about it at a later date. But we are getting down to a limited number of weekends that we can see here. So it's going to be coming up soon here. If you want to check this out, you'll have a chance here soon. But that said, that is what we learned here as of today. On a personal note, definitely going to be covering this game to some degree. Again, I've been intrigued about this since they first announced it back in early 2023. And knowing a bunch of the lore here from the early 90s games, like, I think that narratively, this game could shape up to be something incredibly cool. So I'm definitely intrigued. I definitely want to cover this game a little further. I personally have not played this game since early last year, when we were still getting things announced. Like, I didn't even get in on the closed tests after the reveal in the summer, nor in the ones here in the fall. So we'll see if it lives up to my own personal expectations. As always, the bar for covering a game here on the channel is, 1, is it a shooter? And 2, more importantly, do I enjoy it? That's the simple bar for content here that makes it onto the channel or not. So I cannot guarantee that the issues I had personally with the game will be ironed out and something that I do enjoy 100%, but from what appears to be revealed so far, it does look promising. I can't guarantee that it'll be a hit game that you or I love, but I can only hope that that's the case as a fan of the genre and a consumer hoping for a competitive market, because rising tides raise all ships. One thing that I also will have to say is that we'll of course be covering this leading up to the game, but unfortunately that actually launches right in the middle of the vacation that I've had scheduled for about a half year at this point. Like, just classic, we used to call it COD timing here if you were around for the COD stuff that we did for years, that that timing is just so unfortunate. It hits me all the time. The one pocket time of the year where you think you're good, there's not much that can possibly be going on in the FPS space in February or March. Well, guess wrong on that one. So as a result, we'll likely continue covering the game up until the launch, but the actual launch content itself may unfortunately be delayed by a few days, pending no cooperation with Bungie or anything like that. Like, if they allow for early access capture sessions, that could be something that remedies those launch day things you end up seeing here on the channel. Full transparency, I've had no contact with anyone at the studio since last year's reveal. I have zero idea if that's the type of thing that will happen, if they'd even be interested in working with me for such a scenario, but it's just a statement based on, yeah, games do end up inviting people to play the game early to have content ready for that launch that maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. But either way, I'm intrigued at the very least for what's to come and what we learn here in the next coming weeks, but wanted to fill you guys in on what's upcoming and then a little bit of the plans here for what we can expect to see on the channel leading up to the launch of the game. So let me know your thoughts down below. Drop a like if you guys enjoy the video, you're looking forward to Marathon in any way, shape, or form. And if you are, make sure to subscribe for more Marathon and other FPS content. I'd love to have you in the community for all that kind of stuff, but thanks so much for watching. Modest Espresso. I'll see you later. Take care and peace.